She fixed a rope on the submarine, and the captain whispered, "You're supposed to be dead. No uniform, no ID, just a tattoo the Navy buried with the classified crew." And when the alarm sounded, everyone realized she didn't return by accident. The USS Monterey, a Los Angeles-class fast attack submarine, wasn't the kind of vessel where outsiders blended in. Everything on board had a purpose. Every sailor moved with precision. Every sound mattered. And that's why the crew froze, just for a heartbeat, when they saw her. She was standing near the aft mooring lines, quietly adjusting a coil of rope as if she had done it 1,000 times before. She wore a simple grey windbreaker, black cargo pants, and her hair pulled back in a clean, effortless knot. No uniform, no ID badge, no insignia, just calm, steady hands, and a silence that didn't belong to a visitor. Most civilians avoided submarines. The confined spaces, the metal scent, the hum of machines deep in the hull, it intimidated even young sailors. But she didn't seem intimidated. She moved with the quiet ease of someone who understood the rhythm of the sea better than the people around her. A young petty officer nudged his friend. "Who's that? We didn't have any civilian techs scheduled today." His friend shrugged. "Maybe some contractor from the yard, though she doesn't look like one." Another whispered, "She's just fixing the rope, like she knows what she's doing." They watched as she tugged the final knot, firm, quick, flawless, not a single wasted movement. And then she stood still again, as if listening, not to the crew, not to the pier, to the submarine, to the ocean, to something deeper. The officer of the deck frowned. He had seen every visitor scheduled for the day. She wasn't on the list. He stepped toward her. "Ma'am, this area is restricted." "May I ask who you're with?" Before she could answer, a bosun's mate called out, "Sir, Captain Reeve approaching." Everyone straightened immediately. Captain Jonathan Reeve, sharp, controlled, respected, and feared in equal measure, was known for running one of the most disciplined subs in the fleet. The kind of man who noticed everything and forgot nothing. He stepped onto the pier, returning salutes with crisp precision, but then, mid-stride, his attention snapped toward the woman at the mooring line, his eyes narrowed. Not in anger, not in confusion, in recognition. But that was impossible. The crew exchanged glances. The captain never broke focus, never hesitated, yet something in his expression shifted in a way no one had ever seen. He walked straight toward her, boots striking the pier with sharp authority. "Ma'am, this area is not open to—" He stopped, not because of her face, but because of what he saw when a breeze pushed up her sleeve. A tattoo, not a colorful one, not decorative, not something random. A small, precise mark, sharp lines forming the outline of a trident intertwined with a string of numerical coordinates. Coordinates that every submariner had heard rumors about, but only a handful of classified personnel had ever known. The captain's voice dropped. "Where did you get that?" The sailors looked at each other. "What is that tattoo?" "Looks military." "No, not just military. That's some classified op symbol." She didn't flinch. She simply lowered her sleeve back down. "Old memories," she said quietly. "Ones I didn't expect to matter anymore." But her voice, steady, controlled, carrying a calm authority, made the captain's eyes widen slightly, almost as if the sound of it reached into a part of his past he had tried to lock away. He took a small step closer. "What's your name?" She didn't answer that either, not immediately. Instead, she looked at the submarine, really looked at it. with a familiarity that unsettled every sailor watching, as if she knew every bolt, every weld, every system humming beneath the deck, as if she had once commanded something just like it. The petty officers whispered urgently, "Why is the captain acting like that? Does he know her? Is she some kind of former officer?" But then the woman finally spoke. "I came to see the Monterey," she said softly. "That's all." Captain Reeves' jaw tightened. "That tattoo," he said slowly, "was only given to members of Operation—" She cut him off quietly. "Captain, not here." The way she said it, low, controlled, firm, wasn't a request. It was a command from someone who once held authority far beyond a normal rank. Reeves straightened unconsciously, his posture shifting into something more formal. The XO, watching nearby, raised a brow in confusion. "Sir, who is she?" he whispered. Captain Reeve didn't answer. Instead, he studied the woman's face with the kind of disbelief a man feels when a ghost appears in daylight. "You're supposed to be dead," he murmured, almost inaudible. A shock rippled through the sailors. Dead? What did he mean, dead? Who survives an operation that stamps that tattoo on your skin? But she simply responded with a slow exhale, eyes drifting toward the water below. "Supposed to be," she said. The ocean had other plans. The XO stepped forward, voice tense. "Captain, should we detain her?" Reeve snapped. "No one touches her." Silence slammed across the pier. The crew froze, stunned at the uncharacteristic sharpness in his tone. The captain lowered his voice again. "You disappeared during the abyssal event. Your entire crew, your sub, all gone. They said no one survived." Her eyes softened with a weight that none of the young sailors could understand. "The sea takes what it wants," she said, "and sometimes it gives something back." Reeve swallowed, something surprisingly emotional in his expression. "What really happened down there?" She looked at him, finally meeting his gaze fully, steady, unreadable, unbroken. "That depends," she said softly, "on whether you're ready to hear it." And then, before she could say another word, the submarine's alarm sounded, a sharp, urgent tone, one that meant something was happening below deck. The sailors spun around. The XO shouted, "Captain, we've got a situation on board." Reeves' eyes flicked between the sub and the woman. For a moment, it looked like he was torn between two impossible decisions. But she spoke first. "Go," she said. "I know that alarm." He hesitated, but only for a second, then rushed toward the hatch with his crew. As they disappeared below, several sailors remained on the pier, staring at her, unsure whether she was a threat or something else entirely. She watched the submarine with a quiet, knowing expression, as if she understood exactly what was happening inside and exactly how bad it could get. She took a slow breath, because whatever was happening aboard the Monterey was connected to her past. And the tattoo the captain recognized was only the beginning. The captain's eyes weren't on her face. They were on the tattoo, barely visible, partly hidden under her sleeve, but clear enough for anyone who knew what it meant. A black ink emblem, a trident crossing a sonar wave. Sailors on deck exchanged confused looks. Some recognized it instantly, others didn't, but even they could sense the shift in the air, because that mark wasn't decorative. It wasn't a random design. It was the unofficial badge worn only by graduates of an elite, obscure naval program, one even most officers only whispered about. The captain stepped closer, His voice dropped to a level that cut through the wind. "Where did you get that tattoo?" She didn't flinch, didn't look away, just tied the rope with a smooth, practiced pull, clearly not the way a visitor should know how to handle naval gear. "It's mine, sir." Calm, controlled, not defensive, confident. The XO swallowed. "Sir." "Should we escort her off deck?" The captain didn't answer. He stepped around, studying the rope she'd fixed. Perfect knots, perfect tension, perfect technique. Not the work of a hobbyist, not the work of a tourist. He looked back at her. "That emblem is restricted. Only a handful of people in the entire fleet qualify to wear it." "What's your name?" She exhaled slowly, like she had been waiting for this moment. "Lieutenant Arya Hale, Naval Special Projects Division, formerly assigned as Silent Operations Technician for your submarine." "Sir." A silence heavier than steel settled over the deck. The deckhands stared, wide-eyed. "Our submarine." The captain's voice cracked for the first time since he took command of the Leviathan. She nodded. "You never met me. You weren't supposed to. I worked below operational clearance. Off the books. No uniform. No record. Only the systems knew my name." One sailor whispered. "Sir, she was ghost crew?" Ghost crew. The invisible experts who boarded vessels at night, fixed what others couldn't, and disappeared before sunrise. Most sailors doubted they even existed. The captain took a step toward her, finally seeing what the crew had missed. Her posture, her calmness, her absolute familiarity with the ship. She didn't look like she was standing on a submarine. She looked like she belonged to it. "What are you doing here now?" he asked quietly. She lifted the rope she had repaired, a section of the safety line the deck team had been struggling with for hours. "It's frayed internally," she explained, invisible from the outside. Whoever checked it didn't know what to look for. If the sea got rough, this whole line would fail. "And you'd lose 2 men overboard." A low curse traveled across the deck. The captain stared at the rope, then at her. Everything made sense now. The way she moved, the way she observed, the way she fixed the problem before anyone noticed there was one. "You saved my crew," he said softly. She shrugged, almost embarrassed. "That's what I've always done, sir." The sailors, who earlier snickered, joked, and misjudged her, now stood in a stunned line. Their faces shifted from confusion to shock to respect. One of the youngest sailors swallowed hard and lifted his hand and, awkwardly, saluted her. Another followed, then another. Within seconds, the whole deck stood at attention. She blinked, clearly not expecting it. But the captain wasn't finished. He stepped forward, slowly raised his hand, and gave her the kind of salute reserved only for someone who had earned more than a uniform. Someone who had protected lives without needing credit. Someone who had given the sea more than it ever gave back. "Welcome home, Lieutenant," he said. For the first time since she came aboard, she smiled. Small, quiet. The smile of someone who had finally been seen. The wind pulled at the rope she'd fixed, but it didn't move. It held strong, just like she always had. And on that deck, surrounded by sailors who now knew exactly who she was, the ghost of the submarine fleet finally stepped back into the light.